Hello guys, welcome back, and in this module 4, we are going to learn the Git cycle. All right, the Git cycle, the whole cycle from creating, updating, pulling, pushing, all those functionalities we are going to learn in this module. And so we are going to start with the functionalities for creating and initiating an operation, Git create and init operation. So let me just pull up my paint here so that I can show you what we'll be doing and the basic thing that we'll be doing. So in this module, number one, I do not assume that you have an online GitHub repository whereby you can be able to pull and push your code. So we are going to replicate all these things from a local perspective. All right, so usually what will happen for you to use Git, let me just pick something here. You need to have a local Git repository and a remote Git repository which is hosted in the Git servers. But for this case, I want us just to create the same kind of experience in our machine so that we can be able to do everything from our local computer. Later in the course, we'll see how we can be able to create a remote server and how we can be able to work with a remote server. But for now, I'll just create two repositories in our machine, this Git repository 1 and this Git repository 2 in our machine, and then you can be able to perform all the functionalities that we need here: the push, the pull, the git add in this repository, and all those stuff. And so one thing that we need to do in order to achieve this, we need to create two different folders. All right, so one of the folder will be a working directory with git initialize inside. All right, so this is a working space with git initialize in it, and then the other one will be kind of a bare repository. Basically, it is known as a bare repository. A bare repository is a repository whereby it doesn't have a workspace. The only thing that you can achieve with it is push and pull. So that will be our repository, which will be acting as the server, as the replica for the server. All right, so let me just show you how we can be able to create these two guys and be able to initiate these two guys. All right, so let me just close this now. So what I'm going to do on my desktop, I'm going to create a new folder, and I'm going to call this folder git underscore course, like this. And then inside this git folder, I'm going just to create, I'm going to open this guy. So once I've opened this guy, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to open this guy in CMD, and I'm going to initialize the server a bare git repository which you can only pull and push. All right, or a repository which will act our server. So the way you do this, you just say git init and you say -- bare, then you give the name of the repository that you want to act as a bare repository. In our case here, I just call this git course dot git. Is usually a good practice that you name your servers as .git, then I'll just press enter. So once I've done this, you'll see that inside our git course we'll have now this folder. So now this folder will act as our remote server, as a remote git repository. So in order to create our local our local repository, our folder which will act as a local repository, I'll just clone now. I will copy our git remote server which has already been initiated in our folder. So in this case, I just say git clone to make a copy of this guy, git clone, and the name of our guy is git underscore course dot git. I'm cloning this guy, and the name of our local repository, I want it to be git test. All right, I'll press enter. Then you see it tells me it is cloning into git test, and once it has finished, now I have these two folders. All right, so let me just explain. So this is our remote folder, this is our remote server, and this will be our local server. And if you look inside these two, you'll notice that .git folder doesn't have any workspace. These are just bare git files, all right? And this typically means that you cannot create branches in this folder, you cannot add files in this folder. But when I look at this other local file that I've created, you'll see that it has .git folder, which is basically the same as the files on .git, and then it has this workspace. So inside here I can be able to create file and do all those things. So now we have initiated our Git remote folder and our Git local repository. So now we can be able to commit and push to our Git remote folder from the next lesson.